Hey, welcome to Life After Nursing School. I'm your host, Caroline Dana, aka Nurse Coach Caroline, and I'm here to help you, the new nurse, thrive in your career. As a former nurse recruiter, nurse manager, and now your personal new nurse career coach, I'm obsessed with making sure you don't just survive your first couple of years at the bedside. I want you to absolutely rock them. From the challenges to the triumphs, I'll be right here with you, giving you the real-world advice and support that you need to shine. Whether you're in nursing school getting ready for life after, or you're already out there in nurse life feeling overwhelmed or even questioning your confidence, I've got your back. I'll be sharing tips, tricks, resources, and strategies that are just for you. We'll dive into everything from landing that dream nursing job to slaying imposter syndrome, and most importantly, how to keep that spark alive and stay the vibrant and amazing nurse that you are. So if you're ready to tackle the things nursing school did not cover, like how to build a career, trust yourself, and keep your passion strong, then get comfortable because we are about to dive in and make nurse life the best life. Hey there, welcome to today's episode, which I think will be a juicy one. I'm not sure if you have seen the recent social media trend, the one where you meet your former self for coffee. Oh man, I love this trend so much. If you don't know the trend that I'm referring to, basically it's a reel or Instagram video or TikTok video with a message of what it would be like to meet your former self for coffee, the things you would say to each other, the behaviors of both versions of you, and the perspective differences. I created one, which maybe you saw or maybe you didn't, but it was honestly a very therapeutic exercise. It really made me think about what it would be like to interact with my former self. I've changed so much as a person and I've been through so much as we all have in life. And sometimes I think to myself, man, I wish I knew things were going to play out the way that they did and or to just trust the process. So, with that being said, this episode is going to cover the 5 things I wish I knew as a new grad nurse. And I am sharing these things with you in hopes to help you have a bit more insight when navigating the new nurse waters. Well, maybe at least more insight than I did. Okay, so let's jump in here. I would start with telling the new grad version of me that you don't actually have any idea of the type of nurse that you want to be. I know this sounds a bit harsh, but it is really true. When I was in nursing school, I dreamt about being a hardcore ICU nurse. I had visions of me managing the IV drips and different monitors and caring for the sickest patients. I truly thought I was meant to be an ICU nurse. I even had my senior capstone in the ICU and I loved it. However, when I got out of nursing school 13 years ago, I was offered one job, and that was for the dreadful med-surg specialty. So, for 1 year, I worked on med-surg, and let me tell you a few things about starting in med-surg. When you finally have a full patient assignment and work as a nurse, it is not like what you see at clinical. It is actually very challenging. The workflow, the amount of tasks the primary nurse is responsible for completing, the variety of patients that you treat are all excellent things to see when you are first starting out in nursing. These things are actually quite unique to the med-surg specialty. Med-surg forces you to learn how to work efficiently, prioritize your tasks, manage your time, anticipate needs, and hone in on your head-to-toe assessment skills. You learn how to think quickly on your feet. You also learn critical thinking skills, and patients are much sicker than you would think for med-surg. It provides a wonderful and comprehensive foundation for any nursing career. I learned so much as a new nurse on med-surg, and there were many times where I thought to myself, wow, I'm glad I didn't start in the ICU because I didn't know what I didn't know, if that makes sense. We can't expect ourselves to be wildly successful and proficient nurses straight out of nursing school, and a year in med-surg was very humbling for me. Also, a spoiler alert, I am 13 years into my nursing career and I have never worked as an ICU nurse, nor do I think I ever will. It's actually just not my jam. And after working most of my bedside years in the ER, that is the environment that I truly feel best in. I love controlled chaos, variety of patients and conditions, the fast pace, and the chaotic work setting of the ER. I'm not sure that I actually would enjoy the ICU setting with the likelihood of caring for the same patients over and over and over again. So, if you are a new grad with a similar mindset and think you know what type of nurse you want to be, think again. Okay, so this brings me to the second thing that I wish I knew as a new grad nurse, and that is I wish I knew it was okay to pivot to another specialty when the current specialty was no longer serving me. Listen, I've changed jobs a decent amount throughout my career, and I've had per diem jobs on the side of full-time jobs. But every time I left a job, I felt so guilty for doing so. The guilt kept me in jobs for far too long. Now, this is me telling you that when you find yourself in a job that no longer serves you, it is more than okay to find a new job. As nurses, we feel bad for our team or we feel bad for the manager that hired us. But do not let that stop you. You need to do what's best for you as a person and as a nurse. Life is too short to be in a job that is causing us detrimental stress or a job we do not like. We are each given unique gifts as individuals, and it is important to explore all that nursing has to offer to find your niche in the profession. My dad used to say, if you love the work you do, you will never work in a day in your life. And there have definitely been times where I don't feel like I'm working because I love it so much. And then there's other times where I feel like it is just work, work, work. I have also discovered that once you get that pit in your stomach and start to think, ugh, I don't want to go into work, that pit only grows. Yes, we have our days where we'd rather relax or binge reality TV rather than run our butts off on the floor. But I'm talking about that true dread of your job. I can safely say I enjoy my days currently as a clinical instructor, and I never truly dread it. Do I love getting up at 4:30 in the morning? No, but I do love my students. I love the unit that we are on, and I love the general workflow. I also want to take a moment to provide a reminder of the signs that it is time to leave a job and pivot to another area of nursing. Okay, these signs are being in a bad mood before every shift, or having anxiety in the parking lot before walking into work, becoming angry with every little task or obstacle we encounter during the shift, feeling unmotivated at work, noticing that this unhappiness is infiltrating other aspects of our personal life, and constantly feeling overwhelmed and emotionally and physically drained at the end of the shift. If these feelings resonate with you, time to find a new job. There are so many incredible opportunities in nursing, so please don't let your current soul sucking job ruin your life. Time to pivot, my friend. While we are on the topic of soul-sucking jobs, I want to touch upon the next thing that I wish I knew as a new grad nurse. And please don't roll your eyes when I say this, but it has to do with self-care. I wish I knew what self-care actually was when I was a new grad. And I also wish I knew what self-care practices would actually benefit me. Now, don't laugh, but I actually thought self-care was strictly getting a massage or getting a manicure or pedicure. While these are definitely wonderful self-care exercises, as a new nurse with lots of student loans, I was quite broke, and massages and manicures and pedicures are often quite costly. I also don't find either of those services truly fun or relaxing or something that I want to do in my free time. I am sure there are some of you who really enjoy those things, and I sincerely love that for you. But for me, it's just not something that I routinely enjoy. As a new grad, I figured I would just partake in self-care once I've been a nurse for a long time and had the funds. But that was my problem. I should have implemented self-care all the way back in nursing school. So, what is self-care? I believe it is whatever activity recharges your personal battery. Nursing can be exhausting and draining. So, what do we do to recharge ourselves? Because those things that recharge us, that is self care. For me, this looks like long distance running, particularly outside on a sunny day. And although it's physical, it's actually something that truly recharges my soul. I finish probably 95% of my runs with a smile on my face. Yes, I know I'm a complete weirdo. But when I run, I often find that I get into a flow state where I think about things and I come up with creative ideas and I recognize things that have been bothering me or weighing heavily on my mind that I really didn't realize were there. Running seems to force me to just sit with my thoughts and process them. I also love to curl up in my sunroom and read a good book. A few years ago, I started reading again. I think nursing school burnt me out from any kind of cognitive activities. So when I became a mother, I got back into reading. It was something that I initially did while my kids would play or watch a show on TV. I didn't want my kids to see me sitting next to them while on my phone. I really would rather them see me reading. So my kids used to say, Mom, put your phone down. Now it's, Mom, put your book down, which actually makes me laugh. Reading has allowed me to think outside of the box and even check out from my own reality, which is sometimes a nice escape. Studies show that 6 minutes of reading can reduce stress by 68%, lower heart rate and blood pressure, and even improve sleep quality. It strengthens the brain, sharpens focus, and has been linked to 32% lower risk of cognitive decline. Plus, book lovers actually live longer, up to 2 years longer on average. So, whether it's a novel, a self development book, or even poetry, carving out time to read isn't just a break, it's actually an investment in your well being. I also love that both running and reading are easy to do, cheap, and require minimal equipment. For a good run, all I need are my running shoes, a workout outfit, and a good playlist or podcast. For reading, I just need a darn book. Talk about easy and cost effective. Another self care practice that all nurses, especially new nurses, should implement would be boundaries, especially in the workplace. If I had $1 for every time my workplace would text me to pick up a shift or come in due to staffing issues, I would be rich. Most nurses are empaths and compassionate. We know how hard it is to be a nurse. And when you add in the fact that you're working short staffed, it's beyond challenging. So when your coworker or manager texts or calls you to inquire about helping out your team by coming into work, many of us feel obligated to do just that. Drop what we are doing and rescue our team. As a new nurse, I was a sucker for these calls and texts. Yes, I was happy for the overtime pay, and I did love being a nurse, and honestly, I was hungry for experience. However, it was the guilt that really motivated me to pick up the shift and work extra. Guilt for my peers and my patients. But where did this get me? Yes, of course, my coworkers were grateful every time I came in to work an extra shift, but it didn't fix future staffing issues. Just because I picked up a shift today didn't mean work wouldn't be calling me tomorrow to ask me for another favor. So I was on a one-way trip to Burnout City. Now that I've been around the nursing block, I realize saying yes to one thing means saying no to another. In my early career, saying yes to working extra meant saying no to self care, boundaries, rest, and spending time simply doing things I love with the people I love. Looking back, I wish I put my phone on Do Not Disturb to prevent these calls and texts from connecting with me. You can set the setting for specific contact people now, which is great. I know most organizations text their employees' personal phones at all hours of the day. And if you have these contacts saved in your phone, I challenge you to put them on Do Not Disturb. If there is a day where you are feeling particularly motivated to work, turn the setting off and check in with work. Heck, you could even call your unit and ask if they need any coverage or check in with a staffing office if your employer has one. But at least working extra will be on your terms. I found that on my days when I actually couldn't go into work to help, I was still left feeling so bad that I couldn't help. It honestly took the joy out of my day off. So I recommend setting these boundaries for yourself so you can protect your peace. And you don't need to tell your employer, hey, I'm setting a personal boundary and putting you on Do Not Disturb. Honestly, many employers don't actually respect their employees' boundaries when it comes to staffing needs. So take control of this and set your own boundaries. This also goes for work email. The best thing I ever did as a staff nurse was take my work email off of my phone and only log into my email while at work. If something is extremely important or time sensitive, your manager will call you. So, this is me telling you to establish boundaries to protect your days off and to protect your peace. Days off are an important way to recharge so we can return the next day happy, content, and ready to take care of our patients in the best way we can. The next thing on my list of what I wish I knew as a new grad would be that you don't need to further your education. When I was in nursing school, I specifically remember an instructor saying, it's not if, but when you further your education. And we as students were all nodding our heads in agreement. And to think this was a BSN program. These professors really believed and encouraged us to consider which master's track we would want to go in once we graduated. While I do believe in a sound education and following your dreams, I also feel like the push for a master's degree is excessive and a bit unnecessary in nursing. I know many nurses who have obtained their master's in a specific type of nursing, and once they were actually out working in that master's prepared role, they learned it was not for them. Take myself for example. I graduated in 2012 with my BSN, and then I received my MSN in nursing leadership and management in 2018. I chose this track to pursue nursing management, and then I spent about 4 years in nursing management and realized it wasn't what I had envisioned and it wasn't right for me, the chapter and season of the life that I was in. Luckily, as a clinical instructor, you need your master's, at least in the state of Connecticut. So I am continuing to use my master's degree, but man, don't let society push you into what they consider normal. I also have a lot of friends that are nurse practitioners, and many of them work challenging hours. They have a lot more responsibilities, and some have struggled with actually enjoying the role. So take your time if you are considering pursuing a master's. Be sure it's a track that you want for your future. On this same topic, we get told very early in nursing that nurses are lifelong learners. I do agree. There are always new evidence based practices, new studies, and treatments emerging that we need to incorporate in our daily work. However, this lifelong learning theme seems to push many of us to spend our money, time, and our sanity on obtaining another degree that may not actually add value to our life. Instead, I would love to flip the script and focus on lifelong learners when it comes to ourselves as humans. The type of learning that I think we should focus on as nurses should be the stress that we're willing to take on, the shift that best suits our lifestyle and our bodies personally, the type of culture that we want to work in, the specialty that fills up our cup, and the self care that actually works for us as individuals. We must learn our non negotiables and ways to make nursing fit in our life rather than our life fit into nursing. And please, for the love of the big man above, if I get another LinkedIn message about getting another master's in nursing, I swear it will be a sad day for the poor person suggesting this in my LinkedIn DMs. The last and arguably the most important thing I wish I knew as a new nurse is that you should never make being a nurse your entire identity. I was not aware that I was doing this in the moment, and you may not realize it either if you're anything like me, but I was just so proud and happy to finally be a nurse that I just let the profession swallow me whole. My first few years as a nurse, I practically lived at the hospital. I also had per diem positions in addition to my full time position. Yes, I had student debt that I was highly motivated to pay off, but what I failed to realize is that a career in nursing is a marathon and not a sprint. You must pace yourself or you will be suffering from burnout before you know it. If you are unsure if this is you, let me ask you this. When you meet someone and you're introducing yourself, do you throw in the fact that you are a nurse? Because this was me. Hi, my name is Caroline and I'm an ER nurse. What do you do? Honestly, that probably shouldn't even be one of the first 5 things that I share with someone about myself. As I worked through my own chapter of burnout in my career, I actually got to the point where I changed jobs. And only then, when I had stepped away from that previous role, did I realize that I was incredibly burnt out in nursing. I started to unpack why I didn't feel fulfilled in my job anymore. And I was very frustrated that my job no longer filled up my cup and instead drained me dry every day. At the same time, I had some things happen in my life that really made me realize life is so short and I will never be laying on my deathbed thinking, wow, I wish I worked more. Nope. Instead, I would be thinking about my loved ones and the things that I loved to do that I would no longer be able to do. So, if you are a lover of reading, running, adventures, traveling, coffee dates, hiking, beach days, shopping, or whatever it is that you love, don't stop doing those things. Because when you stop doing those things so that you can work a shift as a nurse, you are letting the profession consume you. If you are a mom, wife, friend, mentor, designer, gamer, fitness junkie, outdoor queen, or whoever you are, don't stop being that. When we introduce ourselves, mentioning being a nurse before these other roles we have in our life, this is us letting the profession consume us. If you are an introvert, easily stressed, prefer a slow work pace, you're a morning person and love predictability, don't kick yourself for being unhappy in an extroverted nursing role in a fast paced night shift and chaotic environment. The math just doesn't math here. Don't force yourself to fit a nursing role that doesn't work for you, because when we do that, we let the profession consume us. We should not fit ourselves into the nursing profession, but instead, the nursing profession should fit into our already existing life. Okay, as a recap, if I could time hop and go back to 2012 and meet bright-eyed, bushy-tailed new grad nurse Caroline for a cup of coffee, I would remind her that she doesn't actually know the type of nursing that would be best for her. I would encourage her to spend time learning more about herself and how the nursing profession can best fit into her life. I would tell Caroline to stop rolling her eyes at the mention of self care and instead spend time figuring out what activities actually bring her back to life after a long, hard shift. Remember, nursing is a marathon, not a sprint. I would encourage her to pivot in her career when her current position no longer served her, and I would remind her not to feel guilty about putting herself first. Lastly, I would remind Caroline of who she is, all the great things she brings to this world, and tell her she is enough just as she is. And now I am telling you the same thing. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope it helps you prepare for your life after nursing school in a way that best serves you, your uniqueness, and adds so much greatness to your life. If you wouldn't mind taking a moment to rate the show on whatever platform you are listening on, I would be grateful. As always, I have a hand for me and the other for you. Signing off. Well, that's it for today's episode of Life After Nursing School. I hope you feel more confident and ready to tackle the challenges that come with starting your nursing career. Remember, the first year or two might not be easy, but with the right mindset, you can overcome anything. If you found value in today's episode, I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a future episode. Also, please consider leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. It helps so much in reaching other new nurses like you. Thanks for listening, and remember, you've got this. Take care and see you next time.